Hello everybody, my name is Jagiero and welcome back to episode 73 of Jagiland. Have you noticed I always say welcome back to whatever episode, and that doesn't actually make sense because the last episode was a different episode, so it's not really welcoming you back to this episode, it's just welcome to this episode. On the last episode, I started working on this Nether Hub here, and as you can see, hopefully, that I've done a little bit of work off camera. I've done this entire section at the top, and all I've done is repeated this design that I came up with in the last episode, and just flipped it and done it at the top. Now, this is not how it's going to look. I think we're going to have some sort of like quartz support struts going into like a sort of... Well, I want to do like a dome, but I obviously don't really have the space to do like a full proper dome, but we could do like a little bit of a flat one, and then I'm going to have some like random red blocks dripping down. That should look pretty cool. Haven't tried that yet, but I'm kind of hoping it's going to be okay. Okay, so what I'd like to do now is obviously I need to finish the designs for the corner sections, and yep, I think I'm just going to wing it. So I've just introduced these little bits here. They're like kind of teeth. I quite like that, and it looks like this stuff is like dripping down kind of thing. That's the sort of effect I was going for, and I like that. I really do wish that they'd had bone blocks in stairs and slabs. That would have been really nice. I think that would have looked pretty cool, but maybe in the new update, who knows. Okay, so do I have the required blocks? Okay, I've got some, that's fine. So all I'm going to do is place blocks. I'm just going to do random. I think if we do something along these lines so that it links up with these like it always has for the rest of the pattern, so that should work okay. And then we'll do like combination of the pillar blocks and whatever we've got. So pillar blocks, chiseled and regular. Right. Okay. So what I would normally do is a pillar, then a chiseled, then a pillar. So let's stick to that, I suppose. Why not? Not like that. And I have to be really careful because I actually still have my haste 2 beacon. It actually reaches this section full enough, and it just destroys quartz. It absolutely wrecks it. Okay, so I need to keep this sort of thing going on here. This sort of I don't know what to call it. This little twirly bit. I don't know. Whatever. I'd like to keep that going. Was my point. I'm losing my brain. I really am losing my brain. I would like to say thank you for all the kind messages on on the last episode, and also just on Twitter and things like that. A lot of people have been sending me messages, just hoping that my dad is doing well, and I can say that he is. He's making progress. He's like I said last episode, he's a very determined man, so that's going to help him no end, I imagine, to recover as quickly as well, I guess as quickly as possible, but we just don't know. We just don't know how quickly is possible, in all honesty. So plus we don't really want to rush him. He actually gets told off by his physios. He works too fast. When they tell him to do something, he's like he's gunning for it. He's like really trying to get it done. And they tell him to slow down, otherwise he's gonna hurt himself, which is not ideal as you can imagine. But that's just exactly how he is. How am I gonna do this? Yes, let's try that. Okay. In the last episode, I actually mentioned that I would like to tell you guys a little bit of a story, and I think you'll be quite interested. Does this look right? Yeah, only as long as we keep this sort of thing going along here, maybe. In fact, let's put it in to remind myself. Yeah, so I mentioned a story, and it's from the video game industry, but it's from quite some time ago now, so sort of we're talking, I would guess mid-90s, early 90s, mid-90s, something along those lines. I'm just trying to figure out what I'm going to do here. Let's extend that, and then I wonder if I thicken this and then like have it curve like that somehow. Let's have a look. 1, 2. Now, this is the part where I'm going to really struggle to tell this story because I am trying to figure out patterns and things as well. So, yeah. I guess RIP my commentary. Like that, maybe? I think this could be okay. Okay, so the story starts with a guy called John Romero. And you should have heard that name if you are interested in video game history, I guess. Maybe not if you are not. Calm down. He is a very well-respected video game designer from, I'm pretty sure it was early 90s. Yeah, well, early 90s, yeah. And he was one of the co-founders of a game development company called id Software. This doesn't look right to me. Why does this not look right to me? Okay, I think I'm going to make some changes here, but never mind. That's okay. Yeah, id Software, not ID Software, id, which has taken on various meanings over the years. Apparently they attributed it to, was it Ideas from the Deep at one point, and then at another point it was In Demand, and then I believe they changed it in the end to it's some sort of philosophy from Sigmund Freud or something along those lines, which is a bit how do I say, opulent, I guess. Was it opulent the right word? No. Egotistical is probably the right word. Do you know what? I'm not liking this. I'm not liking this. Okay, I'm pretty sure you guys can see I'm struggling. I'm just going to go off camera a little bit and work a few little bits out, I think. I got this. I got this now. It's all good. Do I have any end rods on me still? I have a few. Okay, that's fine. Okay, so John Romero and the company id Software. Pretentious was the word I was looking for, by the way, to describe them choosing to say that they were named after the Sigmund Freud theory. I don't even know what it was the theory of. I cannot be bothered to research it, quite frankly, but pretentious was my chosen word, not opulent. That's okay. It's fine. So id Software were actually quite successful. They created some very, influential games, including, well, they started off with Wolfenstein 3D, or Wolfenstein, as someone said it in a video the other day, which I thought was, well, it might be accurate, let's face it. But, yeah, so Wolfenstein 3D was credited as one of, I don't know if it was the first-person shooter, but definitely one that sort of set the industry standard for the time. And at the end of the day, it influenced, every first-person shooter that followed, Call of Duty, all that kind of thing, Battlefield, whatever. So, why can't I jump? Hello. The actual impact that it had on the game industry was huge, absolutely huge. And they followed that. They followed Wolfenstein 3D with Doom in 1993 and then Quake in 1996. So these guys were like the front runners of the video game industry because those games were just ridiculously huge. I do know that one of the guys that eventually ended up leaving and working for a different company ended up creating Duke Nukem as well. So, like, absolutely huge. Their influence on the gaming industry cannot be understated. And John Romero is credited with creating a lot of I know he did a lot of level design and things like that, but he also created a lot of techniques that they were using at the time. And he's actually credited with first saying the phrase deathmatch, or using the phrase deathmatch to describe like multiplayer PvP battles. So I mean, huge, absolutely huge influence on the video game industry. So he actually became a little bit of a celebrity in within the industry, and also, I guess, outside of it. He was featured in several different magazines and things like that. I keep looking around because ghasts do actually keep spawning in these open areas, and just blasting my my design out of the place. Right, so I'm like struggling a bit now to see what I'm doing. I've actually got a screenshot now of design, so well done, Jag. That's something you should have done in the first place. Right, let's get up there. Yeah, so I want a block there and then a slab on top of that. I have to use a lot of slabs and these iron trapdoors and stuff just to stop things from spawning. Okay, so I'll get back to my story in a moment. I just want to show you guys how far I've come on this. Now, I think it does look a little bit bulky, but it should be okay. I think. I don't mind it. I've had to stick in these the darker sections here just because there wasn't enough contrast in this entire section. So, I think it's okay. I think it'll be all right. I think in the grand scheme of things, when it's all finished, this should actually just fit in quite well. So what I've got to do now is I have to repeat this section up on the top there, and then just fill in these bits here as well, and then repeat it for the other 3 corners as well. Okay, so I'm just finishing off this top section of this row, and yeah, where did they get to in my story? Okay, so the company was growing in their influence, and John Romero himself was he was getting a bit of a reputation as a little bit of a celebrity within the gaming industry. He was on magazine covers and things like that, and people said that he started to believe his own hype, and unfortunately by people, I mean his superiors in the company, which is a bit weird to say because, you know, like I said, he was one of the founders of the company, so I don't know where superiors came from, but they did. And at the time, they were working on Quake. Ow! Ow! What the... Okay. Did you notice how I say ow in real life, even though this is just a game? Well, that was interesting. And, yeah, so they were working on Quake at the time. They actually completed Quake within 7 months, I think. And that was the sort of deadline that they set themselves. And that kind of upset John Romero quite a bit because he... This is where arguments started between him and the company, because they said that not only was he believing his own hype and acting a bit like a diva, apparently he was being a little bit lazy and he wasn't putting in the same amount of work on the game that others were. Like I said, they were trying to complete it in a very short time, so it was pretty imperative that the work was done quickly. But to the other side of the story, he felt that they were choosing development over design. The creative side of things he felt was a bit rushed, and he didn't like that. Which you can understand as a creative person. That's something that I think would upset me as well. Okay, so as you can see, I'm pretty sure I've finished. In between these end rods here, I've used this red glass panes, and honestly, you can barely see it, but that sounds like the old dial-up noise for the internet. God, dial-up. That was the worst. Ugh, terrible. Anyway, I think I finished this. Looks pretty good. Yeah. Okay, so, yeah. He disliked that process. Apparently, he didn't work as hard on it as other people did. And when Quake was released, they fired him. They actually got rid of him from, a company that he had co-founded. So it's pretty harsh, but there's two sides to everything. You don't know if he was not putting in the amount of work that others were, then you can understand. But as I said, he was upset about the process that they were going through and not choosing to choosing to rush designs and things like that. And all honesty, Quake is a pretty really well designed game, so I don't know. You just don't know. You just don't know whose side to choose on that one. But yeah, he was fired, and after that, he decided that he was going to form his own company, his own game design company, and it would be a place where creativity would reign. The design would always go first and things like that. So, quite a noble quite a noble ideal for a company. Was it sustainable? Well, you'll see. Okay, so as you can see, I have finished up the floor on the balcony section, and I've also put these walls in now. Very plain, but I honestly don't really have an idea what to do with these just yet. I may even replace this with just like red, variations of the red. Is this concrete or terracotta? That's concrete, okay. We'll see how that works. I keep having to look for gas, because honestly, I've had so many ghasts spawn in these spaces, and I really need to just get on and fill them with the glass. Do I have the glass on me? I do. Very good. Okay, so I'm just going to do the sort of lava design down there. Oh, they could... This is a spawning block. Oh, and these are spawning blocks. Okay, I have to fix that as well. It's been a nightmare. I've had to cover lots of these with slabs because pigmen were spawning on them, which is something I didn't really think of. But I think it actually works out. The pattern looks okay, to be honest. So it all worked out, I guess. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to do that lava design. That's what I was trying to show you. From the floor, I'm just going to do that running all the way around the ring of the balcony. And just going to do it completely random, I think, probably. Just as long as it progresses all the way across, that's fine. Alright, so I thought I would just do a quick time lapse here while I carry on with the story. So, John Romero has left id Software, or rather he's been fired from id Software, and he decides to start up his own game development company called Ironstorm. A very grandiose name, and to match that grandioseness, they locate themselves in the Chase Tower in Dallas. This huge tower with like a big glass roof at the top. Looks really, really cool, I have to say. And it cost an initial $2 million just to get into the place, and then the rent was $1.1 million per month, which is just ridiculous, absolute ridiculous money just to throw at just some office space, essentially, which is what id Software had. They just had regular offices with regular cubicles. But John Romero decided that he wanted to create the perfect environment where creativity could flow while still creating, a quality product. The place was, the offices were designed by a recording studio company that they brought in, which was a strange decision, and they installed a huge, 10-foot logo in the floor, I presume the Ironstorm logo, and they changed the elevator doors to green to match it. The place had an in-house theater where employees could go and spend their downtime watching movies. They had a crash room with beds and sofas. They had a games room with ping pong tables and arcade machines. They had showers and changing rooms because, gamers are all sweaty nerds. And, I mentioned the glass roof on the top floor. Apparently that caused quite a lot of problems because the sunlight through it would cause a lot of glare on the computer screen. So you had all these like office workers putting up big black pieces of cloth just to cover everything to stop the glare, which must have been a very strange sight. Apparently, in the company, almost immediately, there was a lot of in-house fighting due to things like super high egos and that sort of thing. And there's a very high employee turnover rate, so there was lots of people leaving and new people coming in all the time. Apparently, they had like 8 employees leave within the space of a couple of days when they received an email confirming that they'd received financial backing to start their own company, which must have been a very interesting time for the people working there. But they start working on their first game, and they call it Daikatana. And the hype train begins immediately for this game, like just because of John Romero's reputation that it built up over the years, and also people were expecting like the next Doom or the next Quake. So like I said, massive hype for this game already, and then they decide to release an ad before even anything's done for the game. They release an advertisement where it's just a big red poster with black writing saying, John Romero is going to make you his... Well, I'm not going to say the word because YouTube will shout at me, but not a very nice word, and it caused a bit of controversy. It rubbed people up the wrong way, like it was just like, is that really the attitude to be going with? Some people liked it, but most people in the game industry, they were quite upset. about it, as you can imagine. A little bit of info about the game. They said it was going to have a sidekick character. It was going to be a first-person shooter. It was going to have like time travel elements, and it was going to visit loads of different places all over the world. Things like they would spend like certain time in Japan. They would spend like some time in Dark Ages Norway and things like that, sort of like Viking times. Some in the modern times. Apparently, the story of the game is that the antagonist steals this legendary sword, the Daikatana, and it has time travel powers, and he uses those to have financial gains and things like that, and so the heroes have to stop him. That's essentially the sort of premise of the game. Alright, so that's enough waffling on, so let me just get back to a little bit of building with you guys. Okay, so it turns out that all this glass over the top of these lava sections, I hate. I think it looks way too busy. It just doesn't work. It just looks a lot better with a black glass over the top. I think, all honesty, I could probably take out the lava blocks, but I've done it now, so I'm just gonna leave it. I just want to get this done, so I'm just gonna grab all this stuff out of here and replace it with the black glass. Okay, so at this point, Ion Storm is we're actually working on Daikatana, and problems in the development from the very beginning. There's a incredibly high turnover rate for employees, like they're losing employees and gaining new ones at just a stupid rate. And it turns out that the environment that they're working in is just one big toxic mess. Right, for a start, like I said, I mentioned they're in Dallas, and a lot of people didn't really enjoy working in the city at the time. And then the office itself was hardly ideal. Although it sounds fun, I don't think, as a working environment, probably just not the best. And then apparently there was quite a lot of toxic people there. And, I don't want to accuse anyone, but it's an old story, so I'm sure no one cares anymore. Apparently, a lot of the higher ups were just not so nice people, so that's never a good thing for an employee to feel. So they're sort of losing employees left and right, and they're gaining new ones as well. Because at the end of the day, there was a lot of hype around the company, so it still did attract new employees. But it turns out that the management weren't really prepared to handle new people coming in all the time, and apparently there was a lot of miscommunication between different departments and things like that. And one of the best stories involving that involves a meeting that this guy went to. Now, the antagonist's name of the game is spelt K-A-G-E. Okay, so this guy's at this meeting with all the higher-ups and John Romero there and all the other departments, and he's working on an end game sequence, and he's there going, okay, so we've got Cage doing this, and then Cage is saying that, and all the time that he's talking, John Romero and the higher-ups are just giggling at him, just laughing at him every time he says this word, Cage. And he's like, okay, what gives? And so they tell him. The name isn't Cage, it's pronounced Kaji. K-A-G-E. And they're pronouncing it Kaji. And so this guy's like, okay, well, you probably should have told the audio department, because all of the dialogue they recorded for the game uses the pronunciation Cage. So all of the dialogue that they've recorded over the last however many months, and they're using the wrong pronunciation for the antagonist's name. So this is a huge amount of work that they now have to completely redo. I presume they actually redid it. I haven't actually checked that, whether they kept the name Cage in or not. That might be quite interesting. And so yeah, just apparently John Romero's face just turned white once he heard that, because he knew that was a monumental mistake, shall we say, more politely than the other words I was going to use. And so that's just one of the stories. And did I mention that one of the I was talking about the employee turnover rates? Apparently, at one point, 8 of them got an email coded email that included the words along the lines of "the eagle has landed," and that was just the confirmation that they had received the financial backing to start their own company. So that was interesting. Must have been a very interesting time to see 8 people leave in one day. Okay, so I finished this. As far as I can see, I don't think I've missed any blocks. It looks okay. Maybe I could have done just slabs instead. That honestly might have been better. It really might have been better. But I didn't want... Oh, yeah, I could have just used the nether brick slabs, maybe. Honestly. Next episode, this may have a different flaw. Okay? I'm just warning you, it may have a different flaw. What I want to do now, though, is work on the roof. Yeah, no problem. Yeah, no problem. I'll just do a square, and then I'll take a break, and I'll come back, and I'll just carry on, and it'll be really easy and dead quick, and it'll be fine. It'll be fine. Today's the next day. This is a lot bigger of a job than I was expecting. It's the next day. I have been to work. I went to work completely healthy. I have come back from work with the world's worst cold. I'm hoping this is just a 24-hour thing. So sorry if I sound a bit congested. It's fine. Let's get back to the story. Okay, so they fixed the audio problems. Their own problems of their own making. And... yeah, there's still issues with the game, and halfway through they decide to switch from using the Quake engine to using the Quake 2 engine, which caused a load more problems. They had to rewrite... Well, I've read different reports, but apparently they had to rewrite half of the game, which, as you can imagine, delayed things even further. But, it gets done. After 3 years in development, 3 years of hype and... rumours and promises, Daikatana is released. I believe in the year 2000. I haven't checked that, but I believe it's the year 2000. It gets released, and it flops. It is a huge commercial failure. These days, it is generally listed in the top 10 worst games ever. Actually, honestly, it regularly makes the top 3 worst games ever, so that's the sort of magnitude of it. Among the problems were the AI for both the sidekick characters and also the enemies is just terrible. And also the graphics is sort of way behind other games at the time that include, I think it was Quake 3 Arena. Like, seriously? Okay. Quake 3 Arena, and I believe it was Unreal Tournament, which is another highly influential game. One that I actually really enjoyed myself as well. I'm back. A game that I enjoyed playing myself, and I did it kind of multiplayer, in the style of where one of my friends would control the mouse and I control the movement keys and things like that. Lots of fun, you forget you could play games of that sort of way. Okay, so what I have to do here is just chop out random blocks and swap them for red concrete. Yeah, so the actual reviews for the game weren't too bad. They averaged around 6 out of 10. In most of the sort of more well-respected game review magazines. And they actually released a Game Boy Color version that got better reviews than the PC version or the Nintendo 64 version. There were talks to have a PlayStation version, but the deal broke down for some reason. Probably they couldn't wait and they just gave up caring like most people did. Yes. So today it's kind of known as a cautionary tale for the game development industry, that while you can have celebrity status and momentum within the industry, you can have lots of hype. You can have these bohemian ideals about the ideal working environment for you know, for creativity to flow, and you know, you can throw money at a project. You can just throw money at it and have a quirky advertising campaign, and at the end of the day, if there's no substance to back up the style, it will fail. It will fail just like Daikatana did. And I think that's a lesson that a lot of people could do with taking on board. Obviously not just in the gaming industry, but just in life in general. If you don't put in the hard work, you don't get out the rewards from it at the end of the day. At the end of the day is something that I say quite a lot, which annoys me. So I'm going to stop saying that. There's actually a great English phrase that I've just thought of that describes Daikatana quite well, and that is all mouth, no trousers. Yeah, just take it in. Just take it in. I really love that phrase, and maybe the non-UK viewers won't really quite understand it, but still. All the style, no substance. It ended up lacking, complete failure. John Romero's career in the game industry never really recovered. Ion Storm was shut down eventually. They actually did release a game called Deus Ex. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Which was another hugely influential game. I don't actually think it was a huge success at the time. But it is these days widely regarded as, oh, I forgot the red nether brick box. Okay, I've been just breaking these with my hands. What do you actually use? What about an axe? No, see, it's crap. I hate that block. I really just hate that block. Yeah, so they produced Deus Ex, and like I said, it regularly makes the sort of top 10 most influential games ever. So I mean, that was quite a success. But that was developed by Ion Storm, but at a separate department. So it wasn't created in that mess of a Dallas Tower office block, suite, penthouse, whatever. Oh, that's crap. All right, so I think this section is actually finished now, so I can get rid of all of this. I know my video's probably gone over long. I've learned something from this video. I've learned that I can't tell a story while building. So that's maybe something that I won't try again in the future, but I've enjoyed it. I actually really enjoyed doing a lot of research for this topic. It was just a story I'd heard about a long time ago, and it suddenly came to me again quite recently when I was talking about old video games with a friend of mine, and so I thought you guys might enjoy just listening to it. Maybe you hadn't heard it, maybe you have and you didn't know certain parts of it, you know. Either way, I've enjoyed, like I said, doing the research and just telling you guys about it. Okay, so this roof is not perfect. I think I like the red. I think it goes well. I think it actually makes the walls look a little more red. It makes the red the red nether brick stand out a little bit more. I've tried to use this style before, and it's never worked yet. And I think this is the sort of best version of it that I've done. Yeah, I mean, I'm satisfied with this enough to leave it, so that's okay. That works in my favour. I still have to figure out what I'm doing for the stairs that go there, and I've got to change them because they're terrible. I've got to change these walls around the inner section of the balcony. I think I may do those red as well. And I've also got to just do the sort of ceiling areas there on the balcony as well. But I'm afraid I've actually run out of time for today, so I'll probably do that between now and next episode, and I'll just show you guys at the beginning of next episode. But like I said, I'm afraid I've run out of time for today. So if you like the video, please leave a like, leave a comment, and if you'd like to see more, click the subscribe button. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon.